Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome here to the launch pad and our live countdown to launch coverage of USSF-36 Orbital Vehicle 8, the classified space plane for the U.S. Space Force, set to launch again here tonight aboard a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket from historic Launch Complex 39A at NASA Kennedy Space Center in Florida. The weather currently 73% go for launch here tonight, currently targeting a liftoff time of 11:50 p.m. Eastern Time, or just over 57 minutes from now. As always, if it's your first time here, though, welcome. My name's Zach. I'm the founder and host here at the Launchpad Network, and here at TOP, it's our mission to inform and inspire the explorers of tomorrow because we believe that space is better together, and we're glad to have you joining us live here tonight. As we get started, take a moment, engage that like button, share out the stream, invite people to join us, and let us know in the chat where you're watching from. We will be patching SpaceX's live broadcast in at that T-minus 20-minute mark. That's when they're expected to go live here tonight. So in the meantime, we're keeping a close eye on the weather conditions around the Space Coast. On the left side of your screen, the rotating screens coming in from NASA Kennedy Space Center, keeping an eye on the lightning, the wind conditions, and other aspects of the weather. On the right, two live views coming in from the GOES weather satellites. They update every couple minutes, showing the current cloud cover and the current rain conditions that are being picked up by satellite. And it looks like it's going to be a decent evening on the Space Coast for launch here this evening. Today's Falcon 9 booster is booster 1092, going for its sixth flight after previously supporting two Starlink missions, NROL 69, CRS 32, GPS 3 SV 08, and then tonight USSF 36. This Falcon 9 is a Falcon 9 Block 5 booster. The variant's been active since 2018 and averages about $69 to $70 million per flight. The orbital vehicle 1 of the two classified space X-37B space planes that exist, is going for its its fourth flight after previously flying OTV-1 in 2010 that launched on an Atlas V 501, OTV-3 that launched on an Atlas V 501 in December of 2012, and USSF-7 that launched on an Atlas V 501 on May 17th of 2020. This is the first time this vehicle has launched on a Falcon 9, but it has launched the other vehicle 2, previously launched on Falcon 9 as well. As always, if you guys have questions, you can send those in the chat by tagging me at the launch pad, and we'll work on answering those live to the best of our ability while we continue through today's broadcast. If you like what we do and want to help support our mission, you can hit that join button down below. Just 99 cents a month gets you access to our custom TOP launch emotes, gets you access to some behind the scenes videos. We're working on doing more for our members there, but also just helps support our mission to and bring better coverage and expand our crew out around the world. We did want to cut in very briefly and just make note that we are aware that a major 7.5 earthquake did just be detected in the Drake's Passage. This is the location between South America and Antarctica. It was an extremely shallow earthquake at 6.7 miles in depth. It struck at 10:16 p.m. Eastern Time, so just under an hour ago. It's a very remote region, so it's likely that there'll be little impact to any populated areas, and no tsunami warnings have been issued as of this time, but we are keeping an eye and monitoring that scenario as that 7.5 earthquake struck the Drake Passage here this evening. If you like what we do and want to become part of our team, we are super excited to be expanding the TLP crew this fall. We've got a number of positions open in our communications team, our news team, our production team, and our shop team. So if you're interested in becoming a moderator, a space history writer, or a news journalist, maybe you want to be a photographer or videographer down on the Space Coast or at another launch site somewhere around the world, you want to operate our 24/7 cameras on our 24/7 broadcasts, want to be a live launch producer, or maybe you just really love TLP launch gear and the shop and want to help with that, take a moment, click the button, the link in the chat if you're interested in joining the TLP crew. Applications and interviews are underway. and we're excited to be welcoming some new people onto the team even tonight. We have a brand new rocket chaser joining the TLP crew out in the field covering tonight's launch, Ashton. So make sure you're following along on our social media or in our TLP Discord to see some incredible photography from our new rocket chaser member. We're super excited to welcome him on board. So welcome Ashton to TLP. We are counting down now 53 minutes and counting till launch. Now, as today is a classified mission, SpaceX will not be showing anything to do with the second stage or deployment of the space plane. We'll get confirmation from the Space Force later that it launched and went into its initial orbit, but we won't get to know what that is. So it will be a shorter broadcast as it is a classified mission, but we have a very, very busy week in spaceflight ahead. Tonight we have the launch of the classified spaceplane. In just 14 hours, we have the launch of Starlink 17-6. That is tomorrow at 1:02 p.m. Eastern Time. Then on Saturday at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time, we have the launch of Blue Origin New Shepard 35, a cargo mission launching from West Texas. Also on Saturday at 6:30 p.m., we have Electron's next mission launching from New Zealand, Live, Laugh, Launch, the 70th Electron mission. On Sunday at 2:45 a.m. Eastern Time, CRS-33 launches from Slick 40 up to the International Space Station. And then the big one that we're all waiting for, the 10th flight of Starship. We'll be going, our 24/7 countdown to launch coverage is already live with our 24/7 cameras down at Starbase. But we will be, of course, having full commentary coverage and countdown to launch coverage leading into that flight all through the Sunday following the launch of CRS-33. Then looking at the week ahead, it doesn't slow down. We got the launch of NAOS, Luxus, and others on Tuesday at 2:53 p.m. Eastern. Later that night, or technically into the next morning, at 1:49 a.m. on Wednesday, we have a Starlink launch. Also on Wednesday, about 3 hours later, there's another Starlink launch. It is a very, very busy, not even weekend, but week in spaceflight. And every single thing I just said, you can catch live right here on the launch pad. So super excited to see Starship back, well, at least Super Heavy back out at the pad. And we're awaiting that rollout of Starship's ship in preparation for Flight 10. As always, if you guys have questions, you can send those in the chat by tagging me at the launch pad, and I'll work on answering those live. We're going to take a very quick commentary break, and we'll be back. L minus 50 minutes, 36 seconds and counting till liftoff. Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome here to the Launchpad and our live launch coverage of the USSF-36 classified spaceplane X-37B launch from NASA Kennedy Space Center in Florida. If it's your first time here, though, welcome. My name's Zach. I'm the founder and host here at the Launchpad, and here at TLP Network, it's our mission to inform and inspire the explorers of tomorrow because we believe that space is better together, and we're glad to have you joining us live here tonight. SpaceX has just confirmed that weather is now 90% go for launch here this evening, a great sign that we are continuing towards today's liftoff. Propel loading underway on Falcon 9, and SpaceX should be beginning their broadcast here within the next minute or so. We'll, of course, patch that in the moment that they do. Today's Falcon 9 booster is Booster 1092, going for its 6th flight after previously supporting two Starlink missions, NRL-69, CRS-32, and GPS-3 SV-08. Today's booster will be attempting to land on landing zone 2 following liftoff. That'll be all about what we see here tonight, as SpaceX will not be showing any live views of the second stage at the request of the U.S. Space Force. This is normal for these type of missions. SpaceX is getting spooled up here, ready to go, so we will listen into SpaceX Mission Control in just a minute. But as we get started, take a moment, let us know in the chat where you're watching from, and while you do so, share out the stream, invite people to join us as we count down the final 20 minutes till liftoff. As you're seeing on the weather screen just before we switched over to SpaceX, we were green across the board. Everything looking really great for liftoff here this evening. Hurricane Erin has progressed far enough north that it won't be causing any issues for the launch here this evening. Today's launch is launching in a northeasterly trajectory, so if you're in Orlando, Jacksonville, or along the eastern seaboard there, you may have the opportunity to see today's flight depending on your weather conditions and elevation. If you do happen to take photos or videos of today's flight, make sure you send us those over on X at TLPN_official or via our Discord. You can join via the link in the description or in the chat as well. Now, we're super excited to be expanding our TLP crew, and excited to welcome some of you that are joining us. Tonight, we've got a brand new TLP rocket chaser out in the field on the Space Coast, so we're super excited to welcome Ashton to the crew. But if you're interested in joining our communications team, our news team, our production team, or our shop team, from anything from just a chat moderator to a rocket chaser to maybe a space news journalist, a live broadcast producer, or more, take a moment, fill out the application in the link in the chat. Interviews are underway, and we're excited to welcome many of you onto the TLP crew. Uncle Yukon is watching Florida, Cape Kennedy, Cape Canaveral. RWB is watching from Lincolnshire in England. We got Monty in Michigan. Welcome. Uncle Yukon, Washington State. There we go. It's great to have so many of you joining us here live this evening. If you haven't yet, take a moment, share out the stream, and invite people to join us. If you guys have questions, you can send those in the chat by tagging me at the Launchpad, and I'll work on answering those live to the best of my ability while we continue through today's broadcast. Now, SpaceX is getting underway here, running through their intro video. The moment that wraps up, we will patch them on in and listen in to SpaceX Mission Control for an update on the countdown, and we will sync our T0 as well. We should be about L-17 minutes, 45 seconds, and counting till liftoff of Falcon 9 from historic Launch Complex 39A at NASA Kennedy Space Center in Florida. I know we got multiple of our TLP rocket chasers out in the field tonight, so make sure you stay tuned to our Discord and our X social media to see some of their incredible photos. Let's get ready to listen in to SpaceX Mission Control as we count down to launch of U.S. Space Force 36, set to launch the classified X-37B space plane into low Earth orbit.
missions to the moon and beyond.
It is an incredibly capable autonomous spacecraft. For today's X-37B mission, weather is currently 10% POV, which is great. That's about 90% chance of great weather at T0. The range is ready to support. But if for any reason we are not able to launch today, we do have a backup window that opens up tomorrow at midnight. And one last note, we will be closing out tonight's webcast immediately following Stage 1 landing at the request of our customer. Now, while the countdown continues, let's take a closer look at the X-37B and its mission.
And if you're just joining us, we are 14 minutes, 11 seconds and counting from liftoff of the X-37B classified space plane, and it's always fun that we get to see this like hype video of what this classified space plane does when we're not supposed to really know much about it. So there's lots of things the X-37B can do. Each mission they have pushed it further, conducting more science, more tests, and conducting more dynamic missions. The last mission was a little bit shorter than some of the ones we've seen, but this space plane could be up in orbit for up to like 2+ years, depending on the mission that they decide to run here. It's an incredible aircraft, kind of a micro shuttle in a way, that flies and then lands back here. And there's actually video that when shuttle was still out there in operation down on Kennedy Space Center, but it is launched by Boeing. Listen back into SpaceX Mission Control.
Two-stage rocket that is 229 feet tall and is getting ready for liftoff in just over 13 minutes. At launch, it produces more than 1.7 million pounds of thrust. And rockets like Falcon 9 don't use all of that thrust just to go straight up. Early in flight, Falcon 9 performs a gravity turn that is a smooth pitch maneuver that tilts the rocket sideways to build up horizontal velocity. You might hear that call out about 10 seconds into launch as vehicle pinching downrange.
And once the first stage completes its portion of the mission, it shuts down and separates from the second stage. A stage rocket like Falcon 9 detaches the booster to reduce weight and expose the Merlin vacuum engine on the second stage. Stage 2 needs to reach an orbital velocity of about 28,000 kilometers per hour just to prevent falling back down to Earth and to reach orbit. Now that's fast enough to lap the Earth in about 90 minutes.
After stage separation, today's booster will be landing at Landing Zone 2 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, and it's going to be returning to Earth for its 6th time. The second stage will take over from there, powered by that single Merlin vacuum engine, also known as the MVAC. With its extended nozzle and optimized design, the MVAC produces about 220,000 pounds of thrust in the vacuum of space.
And at the very top of the vehicle is the payload fairing, a 17-foot wide carbon composite shell that protects the payload during the uphill trip through the atmosphere, and you can see it there on your screen. About 3 minutes into flight, both halves of the fairing will separate and parachute back down to Earth. Many of our fairing halves have seen multiple flights, but today we have one flying for its second time and the other just for its first time.
If recovery goes to plan, the fairings will be pulled from the ocean and prepped to fly again. So much of what makes Falcon 9 remarkable happens in those first few minutes of flight, these stages separating. The first stage landing itself on land or on a drone ship in the middle of the ocean, and those fairings parachuting back, all to get ready for another flight to space.
And just at T-minus 11 minutes, Falcon 9 is tracking no issues and our payload is healthy. The Falcon 9 team reported on console at T-minus 2 hours and 15 minutes and began their final checks of the launch vehicle and ground systems. Final checkout of the flight termination system was performed at T-minus 1 hour and 45 minutes.
The chief engineer conducted a technical readiness poll just before T-minus 1 hour. After that, the Falcon 9 team completed a data review of first and second stage propellant checkouts, as well as avionics and guidance, navigation, and control at the T-minus 1 hour mark. At the technical readiness poll, there were no issues, and the team completed the poll at T-minus 38 minutes to proceed with propellant load and launch, and we're expected to finish loading at T-minus 2 minutes.
Now you might be able to hear some of the live rocket sounds from our launch pad. Those pops and hissing sounds are from the propellant loading as well as the launch mount and the strong back that the propellant is flowing through. Falcon 9 uses two propellants. The first is RP1, which is a highly refined kerosene, and the second is our oxidizer, liquid oxygen, which is commonly called LOX. An oxidizer is a type of chemical that releases oxygen to mix with fuel and allows it to burn.
The liquid oxygen is chilled well below its boiling point, so that is a much greater amount of mass per volume.
Now, today's mission is for the U.S. Space Force and is being overseen by Space Systems Command, or the SSC. Space Systems Command is the U.S. Space Force's field command responsible for acquiring and delivering resilient capabilities and groundbreaking technologies to protect our nation's strategic advantage in and from space.
Here's an overview of Space Systems Command's mission. Yes, we're currently at T-minus 6 minutes until launch of the USSF-36 mission, delivering the Space Force's X-37B orbital test vehicle to space. Liftoff is scheduled for 11:50 p.m. Eastern Time from Launch Complex 39A at Kennedy Space Center. Now, next up in the countdown, the Transporter Erector, or TE, will begin to retract away from Falcon 9. That's the large truss structure that you see standing next to the rocket. It's hinged at the base and is connected to the launch mount beneath the first stage.
And first, we'll see the clamp arms open up around the second stage. It's just below the fairing. Then the TE will begin to pivot back, slowly swinging away from the rocket. It will reach full recline by T-minus 3 minutes and 40 seconds. And you may also hear the TE called the Strongback. It's the same structure, just a different name. The TE rolls Falcon 9 out to the pad, raises it vertical, and stays connected through the final seconds to launch. The TE provides fuel, power, telemetry, and command connections between ground systems and the vehicle.
So
Tanks are pressing for Strongback retract.
we're just about 35 seconds away from starting to see those clamp arms opening around the second stage on our vehicle stack. Those clamps help stabilize the second stage during fueling, and they also prevent movement in high winds. Once they are open, the rocket will be fully free at the top.
It may be a little bit hard to see what's around the vehicle, but we should start to see those clamp arms opening up here shortly. Again, they're around the second stage,
Strongback retract has started.
but just below the fairing, and we heard that call out that the Strongback or TE is going to start that reclining process. Again, those arms are going to open up first. Again, hard to see with those clouds. It looks like those clamp arms are beginning to open up. Again, once they are fully open, then that Strongback or that TE can begin to recline away from the vehicle. And there you can see those clamp arms moving. And it looks like they're fully open now, so the TE should begin to recline away from the vehicle. It's going to be really slow and slight. It's just going to be a few degrees here. And there you can see it moving on your screen. And a pretty slow process, but just a couple degrees, and then it'll move further away at the T0 mark to clear the way for the vehicle.
Spacecraft is on internal power.
So right now, both stages are nearly fully loaded with about 1 million pounds of propellant. That includes RP-1, a highly refined kerosene, and liquid oxygen chilled to under 300 degrees below zero. Propellant is loaded late in the countdown, and that's intentional. Colder propellants are denser, and denser...
Stage 1 LOX load is complete.
There's a good call out. Denser propellants mean more performance out of the same tanks.
And before any of that propellant flows through, the plumbing and engines are chilled down. That prevents thermal shock and boil off when the ultra-cold liquid starts moving. And you may hear that referred to as engine chill. And we did hear that call out, as Tyler mentioned, at T-minus 3 minutes, that stage 1 liquid oxygen loading is complete. Coming up next will be stage 2 liquid oxygen loading at T-minus 2 minutes.
So at T-minus 60 seconds, Falcon 9 will enter startup. And at that point, the rocket's onboard flight computers will take over. From there on out, the countdown becomes fully autonomous. Then, just inside of T-minus 2 seconds, the 9 Merlin 1D engines will ignite, and once they're at full power, Falcon 9 will lift off the pad and begin its climb to orbit.
And we are coming up on that call out at the T-minus 2 minute mark for liquid oxygen loading on the second stage.
Stage 2 LOX load is complete.
And there it is. That means Falcon 9 is now fully loaded with propellants. As of now, the payload remains healthy. The rocket is tracking no issues. Weather is green, and the range is clear to support our scheduled liftoff of 11:50 p.m. Eastern Time.
Now, you might have noticed those white clouds that are venting from the rocket. That's not smoke, it's actually condensation. As the liquid oxygen warms slightly inside those tanks,
Gas
some of it boils off, then that gas is vented to manage pressure. When the vented oxygen hits the warm and humid Florida air, it instantly condenses into those clouds. Same principle as your breath on a cold morning, just a much bigger scale.
And we are coming up on Falcon 9 in startup. That's when the internal flight computers take over the launch countdown. The stage 1 and stage 2 tanks will also begin to pressurize for launch.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
There's that call out.
All right, and now we are waiting for the final go from the launch director.
This is the mission director. Go for launch.
We just heard that great call out that we are go for launch. He's given the final go. Let's listen into the countdown.
T-minus 30 seconds. T minus 15 seconds. T minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Engines full power and liftoff. Go SpaceX, go USSF-36.
Vehicle is pitching downrange.
MOD chamber pressure is nominal.
At T plus 30 seconds and counting, Falcon 9 has successfully lifted off from Launch Complex 39A at Kennedy Space Center. Now, in just a few moments, we'll begin to throttle down those engines on that Stage 1 vehicle that you see on your screen in preparation for Max
Falcon 9
Q.
power and telemetry are nominal.
Good nominal call out. Max Q is the period of maximum aerodynamic pressure. This is a critical moment during flight because the combined stresses caused by Falcon 9 accelerating through the atmosphere
Falcon 9 is supersonic.
and the ambient static pressure are at its greatest point during this moment.
Max Q.
And there's that call out for Max Q.
Now we have several events coming up in quick succession, and we should hear all of these called out by Mission Control, starting with Main Engine Cutoff, or MECO, Stage Separation, Stage 1 Flip, SES-1, Start of the Boost Backburn, and fairing separation. MECO is where we shut down all 9 Merlin 1D engines on the first stage. Then Stage Separation is when the first and second stages of Falcon separate from one another.
Some great live views there of the first stage vehicle. Stage 1 flip is when the booster uses its nitrogen gas thrusters to flip the booster around. Now, depending on the mission, Falcon will perform a fast or slow flip. Today, the booster will perform a fast flip because it will be returning back to the landing site on land. On ascent, the booster is moving away from the landing zone at 1 mile every second, so every second counts. The fast flip gets us maximum impact on the forward velocity and allows the booster to orient itself quickly to boost back to the landing zone. Now, second engine start 1 or SES-1 is when we will light that MVAC engine on the second stage for its first time.
Stage separation confirmed.
So we just heard that call out for stage separation, and with
Stage 1 boost back startup.
all right, so with the boost back burn, that'll last about 45 seconds. Meanwhile, we should be hearing a call out for fairing separation in just a few moments.
Fairing separation confirmed.
And there we just heard we had a successful fairing separation. While Stage 2 continues on its journey, the fairing halves will fall back to Earth, where we'll attempt to recover them using our recovery vessel, Doug. Now, the boost back burn is almost complete, and it's going to place the first stage on an optimal trajectory for landing at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station at Landing Zone 2.
Here you can see a view
Stage 1 boost back shutdown.
from the first stage. We heard that call out, but also you can see that those engines have shut down on the first stage vehicle. Now, it is nighttime over on the East Coast, so it's a little bit hard to see, but we are still seeing a view from the first stage vehicle. We'll see if we are able to get some clearer views as we hopefully will get some light to shine on the vehicle. It's a little bit hard to see, but you can kind of see the grid fins are opening up on the first stage there. And this is a view of our mission control here in Hawthorne. Now, it is 4 minutes into today's mission. The next major milestone coming up is almost at the T plus 7 minute mark, and that's where you should see the first stage's entry burn. To start the entry burn, we will relight 3 M1D engines on the first stage, and that starts with the center engine, known as E9, followed shortly after by a couple of other engines, E1 and E5. This is similar to pumping the brakes to slowing down the vehicle as it passes back through the Earth's atmosphere. Now, we do this to slow down the vehicle due to reduce the reentry forces, and that helps us recover and reuse the first stages.
So during the entry burn, Falcon 9 is decelerating by firing its Merlin engines, but the vehicle is still moving really fast. This causes it to fly through Merlin's exhaust gases, also known as the rocket's plume, which deposits a layer of soot on the vehicle surface. And that's why our flight-proven vehicles look the way that they do. The soot comes from the carbon-based fuel that Falcon 9 uses, and with each flight, the soot builds up a little bit more and a little bit more on the outside of the vehicle.
We are still a couple of minutes away from beginning that entry burn, and even though we don't have some live views at this moment, you can still check out the telemetry on the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, and you can also follow along on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. You could see a graphic showing the engines on the first stage. So you can see when we do have that entry burn, we're going to light up those engines. You can see that on that graphic there.
Now, Falcon 9 is the world's first orbital rocket capable of reflight, and reusability is key to lowering the cost of spaceflight, which enables more investments in critical space infrastructure. The Falcon 9's first stage that is supporting today's mission is performing this entry burn for its 6th time, and as we mentioned earlier, one half of the payload fairing is flight-proven, one is flying for its 2nd time, and the other is flying for its 1st.
And we are, again, just a minute away from the beginning of the entry burn. Again, you can follow along with the telemetry. We are waiting to get some live views back of the first stage vehicle, but we can see the speed and the telemetry. It's nighttime, so it's a little bit dark. We don't have some great views, but as there you can see on your screen, again, it's a little bit dark. We got a little light there, but we'll follow along. When the entry burn does come up, it should light up the screen and we should get a little bit clearer view of the first stage.
It's a little bit hard to see, but you can see the silhouette of the grid fins. We've got 4 hypersonic grid fins that help us steer the first stage as it's returning back to Earth.
We're about 20 seconds or so away from that entry burn beginning on the first stage. Again, this is going to be the 2nd of 2 burns. And there you can see on your screen, the entry burn has begun. And this is a view from a ground tracking camera. And this is a view from the first stage looking aft down at the engines. You can see that entry burn is burning and should be shutting down here shortly. And as you saw on your screen, the engines have shut down on the first stage booster. That completes the 2nd of 3 burns for the Falcon 9 first stage to make its way back to a land landing today.
So in just under a minute, we should be expecting that first stage landing burn. Now, the Merlins on the Falcon first stage are optimized for sea level, and they achieve 190,000 pounds of thrust each during ascent and descent. At liftoff, Falcon 9's first stage has thrust that's greater than 5 747 airplanes at full power.
We are expecting that landing burn any moment. And there it is. You can see the engines have lit up on the Falcon 9 vehicle. Let's watch as Falcon 9 touches down.
And that was the 6th launch and landing for this first stage.
As a reminder, we will not have views of the 2nd stage at the request of our customer.